I'm Courtney. We're a family of 5 trying to grow as much of our own food as we can, and we raise chickens. Our kids wanted to name our little backyard farm, so we did. It's called Heart Pine Farms. You wait so long for your garlic to grow, anywhere from 7 to 9 months depending on the variety. Even if you grow the same variety every year, sometimes the timing can vary. This is the Softneck garlic we planted on October 15th last year. We'll show you the visual signs we look for while we're waiting for our plants to let us know when it's the right time to harvest them all. We'll also show you how we harvest and cure the garlic so it'll store well, and at the end of the video, since it's been a month since we harvested, we'll show you the signs that let you know your garlic is done curing. It's May 26th and we're harvesting our Softneck garlic tonight. Here in Zone 7B, we're growing Softneck garlic, and we've grown hardneck garlic before too, but here in our individual microclimate in our garden, Softneck garlic just happens to do better. So hardneck garlic, in our experience, takes a little bit longer to grow than softneck garlic does, probably around 8 months or so. Softneck garlic is a little bit less than that. But timing is not the only factor that goes into determining whether your garlic is ready to harvest or not. So the timing is just kind of a ballpark estimate for me, and I look for these visual cues. And so the plants pretty much tell me when they're ready to harvest. So if you look at them in the beds, we have 3 4x8 beds of garlic here. If you look at them, you can tell that probably a third to half of the plants are turning brown. And when you look up close, you can see that 2 or 3 leaves on the plant have died back. So each leaf is actually a layer of wrapper around the plant. So you don't want too many of them to die off, because then your garlic isn't going to cure as well and store as well, because it'll have less protective wrapper around the bulb. So I'd say 2 or 3 from the bottom up is what I usually look for. So the other thing is I kind of gently dig around the bulb like this to see the size. This is a very good size bulb right here, so I can tell that it's ready to be pulled up. So far for the whole spring, I've been making sure that the garlic plants have been receiving consistent moisture if we haven't had enough rain, because we still have some dry spells in the spring. But when it starts to get closer to harvest time and I see the plants looking like this, I stop watering for about a week. And that's because the harvest is a lot cleaner that way. There's going to be a lot less dirt stuck to the bulbs when they're pulled up. Since I stopped watering the garlic beds, the garlic has actually started to dry out in the beds, and we're going to have a really wet and rainy weekend coming up, so I'm just going to harvest it all right now. We have Inchelium Red and we have Sicilian garlic growing in 3 4x8 raised beds, 55 garlic bulbs in each bed. This is garlic that we saved from last June's harvest. Softneck garlic actually stores for a little bit longer than hardneck garlic does. It stores for us about a year, and we plant enough to last for a whole entire year. I think hardneck garlic, in our experience, it lasted for maybe 6 to 9 months as opposed to 9 to 12 months. So when we harvest, I like to take the trowel and make sure that it's far enough away from the garlic bulb that there's no way that it's gonna nick the garlic bulb and damage it. So I like to use this kind of scoop trowel. It's perfect for harvesting garlic. I make sure it's nice and deep, and I just kind of loosen the soil. I never pull it from the stalk because it could break off. So then I just kind of lift it out of the ground and I shake some of the soil off. I'm just gonna set it here until I start to hang it up. So some people like to, especially if you harvest when the soil's wet, to lay these out in a spot that is not in direct sun, so that the soil can kind of dry a little bit before they're hung up, and then that way you can kind of shake it off. But I think these are pretty good. They're not caked in soil, so I'm just gonna start hanging them up right after we harvest them tonight. Some of the bulbs are smaller than others. They're not going to be all the same size, and that's perfectly fine. When we plant in the fall, we usually try to use our biggest cloves from the biggest heads of garlic that we have to try to, you know, get the biggest garlic bulbs. But yeah, sometimes they end up being a little bit smaller, and that is perfectly okay. That's a huge one. Look at that. Oh my gosh, this is a huge one. Dang, that is a really big, huge bulb here. Look at that. Huge head of garlic. That's awesome. This one's pretty good size too, but it looks tiny compared to this one that we just pulled out. It's huge. And this one is really small. I think fire ants affected the growth of this one. In the corners of our raised beds, we have ant problems a lot of times. But we'll still eat the little tiny ones. Actually, garlic doesn't have to be cured to eat it. You can eat it as soon as you pull it out of the bed. But I think the flavor gets better the longer that it's been aging. So I think this is going to be another huge one. Get ready. Check that out. Beauty. Huge one. If you see garlic bulbs that split apart like this, it's most likely because they were in the ground for too long. They're perfectly fine to eat as long as they haven't rotted, but they'll have to be eaten right away because they won't cure since they were exposed and missing the protective wrapper. Now that we have a pile of beautiful garlic harvested from our first bed, I'm going to show you how we're going to cure it. Softneck garlic is the garlic that you would braid if that's how you want to store it. It looks really pretty that way, but I'm just going to tie it up on these garment racks with wheels because that's just the quickest and easiest way for me to do it right now. I gather about 5 of them together like this in a bunch so that they can, you know, get enough air circulation. And I tie them together in a bunch and just tie them to this rack right here. We finished harvesting our 3 beds of garlic after the sun went down and before the rain started the following day. The curing or drying stage can last anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks or even more depending on variables like humidity. It's been 4 weeks since harvest, and here is our curing update. Our garlic has been hanging for 4 weeks in our garage, which is a conditioned space that stays at around 70 to 75 degrees. The humidity is harder to control, and it does affect the length of time it takes for garlic to cure. We've had fans blowing directly on the garlic the whole time to increase air circulation. You can see here that the foliage is completely dry, and if you cut through it, there is 0 green left all the way through. You can feel the dry, papery wrapper around the head of garlic. We trimmed the roots off, and we've heard that leaving 6 inches of stem may help increase storage time. We gently shake or brush the dirt off and store the garlic bulbs in mesh bags in the pantry. Over the past 10 years, our softneck garlic stores for around a year. Hardneck garlic hasn't stored for nearly as long for us. We do keep an eye on the heads of garlic because a few may become rotten and will need to be removed.